The latest attack on Israel was not a missile. It was something different. You're not going to believe what it was. Stay with me and I'll tell you all about it. So, completely redefined by Wikipedia, Zionism now demonizes Israel. When people speak of Zionism, it generally is a polarizing conversation between Zionist and anti-Zionist. Today, more than ever, the validity of Zionism is a critical subject. The Bible is the best place to start if we care to understand Zionism as defined by God's word in the Torah and the prophets. Let me give you some examples that we can find in the Bible. The land belongs to God first and foremost. Leviticus 25:23. God made a covenant with Abraham, promising a land, a seed, and a blessing. Genesis 12:1-3. The land has specific boundaries yet to be fulfilled in the future. Genesis 15:18-21. God's covenant was reconfirmed through Isaac, Jacob, and his 12 sons. Genesis 26:2-4, 28:13, and 50:24. The land is promised based on God's character and not Israel's performance. Deuteronomy 7:7-9. God told Israel to conquer the land. Deuteronomy 9:3. A few more. God controls Israel's exact boundaries. Deuteronomy 2:3-5 and 16:19. Israel will never be destroyed because of God's promise of eternal protection. Jeremiah 31:35-37. God promised Israel a new covenant when he will remember their sins no more. Jeremiah 31:31-34. Israel's glorious future includes a final restoration to the land. Ezekiel 39:25-29. Now, in all fairness, Zionism can be defined beyond the religious and biblical boundaries because it also has a political and cultural aspects to it. The terms Zionism and Zionist were coined in 1890 by Jewish activist Nathan Birnbaum, who also played an essential part in the very first Zionist Congress held in 1897. The word Zion, or Zion, comes from the Hebrew word Zion, which is a reference to Jerusalem and often, by extension, to the land of Israel itself, which is first mentioned in 2 Samuel 5:7. Anti-Zionists describe Zionism as racism, colonization, and occupation. They demonize Israel in any way they can. They work hard at establishing a historical precedent for the existence of Palestinians before the Jewish people were in Israel. Fortunately for them, the vast majority of their audience is pretty much historically illiterate and unable, or possibly unwilling, to compare the current anti-Zionist narrative to the facts of history. While not my first choice for academic or bulletproof accurate data, Wikipedia has been somewhat helpful in the past for quick checks of basic information. There must be a valid reason why my seminary professors required 10 book quotes for each Wikipedia quote used in a paper. This being said, Wikipedia is used by millions every single day. About 20 years ago, in 2004, they compiled a definition of Zionism that, while not perfect, was acceptable and as unbiased as could be on that platform. And it stated, and I quote, "Zionism is a political movement among Jews holding that the Jewish people constitute a nation and are entitled to a national homeland," close quote. That's not too bad. The word Zionist derives from the word Zion, being one of the names of Jerusalem as mentioned in the Bible. The diaspora Jews, Zion has been a symbol of the Holy Land and the return to it as promised by God in biblical prophecies. So that definition from Wikipedia is a bit simplistic of a definition, but a political movement toward a national homeland, it's a good start. Israeli Foreign Minister Abba Eban defines Zionism as follows: Zionism is nothing more but also nothing less than the Jewish people's sense of origin and destination in the land linked eternally with its name. Close quote. Additionally, soon before his assassination in 1967, Martin Luther King was at a dinner party in Cambridge when a young man openly criticized Zionists. Martin Luther King quickly responded, "Don't talk like that. When people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You are talking anti-Semitism." Close quote. He was right. We could add a lot more definitions to help refine the understanding of what Zionism is and what it is not, and why it's not racism, even though the UN passed a resolution in 1975 saying that it is racism and racial discrimination. And it took him 16 years to have it repealed in 1991. Now, coming back to Wikipedia today, on their page in 2024 on Zionism, the definition has changed drastically. Listen to this. Zionism is an ethnocultural nationalist movement that emerged in Europe in the late 19th century and aimed for the establishment of a Jewish state through the colonization of a land outside Europe. With the rejection of alternate proposals for a Jewish state, it eventually focused on the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, a region corresponding to the land of Israel in Judaism and of central importance in Jewish history. Zionists wanted to create a Jewish state in Palestine with as much land as many Jews and as few Palestinians, Arabs as possible. Following the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Zionism became Israel's national or state ideology. Close quote. This adjustment was made quietly. Nobody announced it. The previous definition is no longer visible, at least not clearly through Wikipedia, unless one spends hours researching their available edited history, but it's not easy. Words such as ethnocultural nationalist, colonization, as few Palestinian Arabs as possible, those words are very dangerous. Later in the definition, on top of that, Wikipedia even questions original Jewish ethnicity when they state, and I quote, "The application of the biblical concepts of Jews as the chosen people and the promised land in Zionism, particularly to secular Jews, requires the belief that modern Jews are the primary descendants of biblical Jews and Israelites." Close quote. Friends, this gets pretty close to the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about Jews being the descendants of Eastern European Khazars. And by the way, I have a video on that. You might want to look for it. I'll link for it in the description. This is not the first attempt from Wikipedia at altering definitions and statements to twist the truth. They recently found the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, unreliable on the subject of the Middle East. They also decided that the excellent and thoroughly researched site jewishvirtuallibrary.com was not reliable on the same topics. This incremental change in redefining pro-Zionist organizations of all sorts is extremely dangerous. The few people who are seeking the truth about Israel and Zionism will no longer find it on Wikipedia, that's for sure, which unfortunately remains a favorite of many for gathering information. This will also encourage anti-Semites around the world in their quest to eradicate any vestige of Israel's right to the biblical land given to her by God himself. That's a slippery slope, my friends. In the cult science fiction movie Soylent Green, the people had gathered and protected a library of real printed books telling them about a life most of them had never known and only heard about. Collecting books might not be a bad idea if the online community becomes so one-sided and anti-Zionist. I want to give you a couple, like 3 actually, that should be in your library, in no particular order. First, The History of Israel by Howard Sakar. Then Myth and Facts, A Guide to the Arab-Israeli Conflict by Mitchell Bard, and Israel, My People by Abba Eban. Those 3 are really good books you should have and read. Now, just as a point of comparison, Wikipedia defines Palestine as a country in their introduction as follows. Palestine, officially the State of Palestine, is a country in the southern Levant region of West Asia, recognized by 145 out of 193 UN member states. Wow. Hey, friends, no matter how many member states of the UN call it a country, Palestine is not a country. But Wikipedia thinks otherwise. They must know something we don't. In a world where Wikipedia can rewrite history without consequences and possibly become the standard for neo-truth seekers, no one will be safe. We are better off defining Zionism from the Bible. It is precise, unbiased, and guaranteed to be true, which also makes its main message of redemption through Yeshua the Messiah as life-changing as it is unavoidable, as you can read in Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12, John 3:16, Galatians 2:20, and Ephesians 2:8 through 9. Well, friends, that's all I have for this episode. Make sure you share. This is important. We need to pay attention to those changes. We need to expose those changes and let people know about it. But the definition of Zionism can be best understood from the biblical verses that I gave you at the beginning of this episode. So make sure you refer to them. And as always, I should say, thank you for watching. And make sure you visit our website, and we appreciate your prayers, and we definitely need and appreciate your support as well. Until next time, be blessed.